Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and I'm so delighted that you're all here, and really delighted that Secretary of Labor Tom Perez is with us. And we want to thank him for coming up to Rhode Island. I know he loves coming to Rhode Island, so it's always great to have you, and really thank you for taking part in this round-table discussion on the Lead on Leave initiative, and thank you everyone for being here. Special thanks to my colleagues, Senator Reid and Congressman Langevin, for not only being part of this, but for their great work in Washington on this issue. I also want to acknowledge that Senator Whitehouse's office is represented here by Raleigh, and as everyone knows, although he's not able to be with us today, Senator Whitehouse has been a very strong advocate for working families in so many issues in the United States Senate. I also want to welcome in particular my state senator, Senator Gail Golden, who is here, and she's been a real champion on this issue here in Rhode Island. She has worked in the General Assembly to make Rhode Island the third state in the country with paid leave, and I know that all of us were really delighted when her bill was signed into law in 2013. And I'm honored that Senator Golden is here, and also I'm very honored to be one of her constituents. I also want to recognize the Director of the Department of Labor and Training, Scott Jensen, who is helping to administer paid leave here in our state and will help us understand the impact that this legislation is having on families and employees. I just want to welcome George Nee, the President of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO, and Patrick Quinn, the Executive Vice President of District 1199 SEIU, who are here today and for their work all the time for working families. And really particularly thank you for your strong advocacy on paid leave and other important employment policies for Rhode Island's working families. And we're here today at LNA Laser Technology, and that's because of Dan Gold, there's Dan, who graciously offered to host us here, and his entire team has been really demonstrating how paid leave can work for local and small businesses. And I really thank you for hosting us and being part of this. And David Deary and Megan Lombard are here today to tell us about the benefits that paid leave have provided for them and their families, and I'm really looking forward to you all hearing a wonderful story. Paid leave is an issue that's very important to millions of working men and women like David and Megan. Just about every other country in the world provides paid leave for their workers. In fact, right now, the United States is one of only 3 countries that does not provide paid maternity leave. The only other 2 countries that don't do this are Oman, which is an absolute monarchy in the Persian Gulf, and Papua New Guinea, which has one of the highest rates of violence against women in the entire world. Our economy is changing and evolving every day, and working men and women are finding it harder and harder to strike the right balance between their jobs and spending time with their family. And that's true for more than 30 million American families who have young children, and the nearly 40 million Americans who provide unpaid care for seniors each year. Thanks to Senator Golden and her colleagues in the General Assembly, Rhode Island is leading on leave. There are one of only 4 states in the country that has passed paid leave laws. The other 3 are California, Massachusetts, and Washington. But those 4 states aren't enough. We need to take action at the federal level to extend paid leave to working men and women all across the country, and that's why Secretary Perez is with us today, and that's what I've been working on in Congress. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the Family and Medical Insurance Leave Act, a bill that would provide up to 60 days of paid leave for an employee to care for a family member, as well as the Family and Medical Leave Inclusion Act, which is being introduced later in this Congress, a bill that will provide employee leave to care for a domestic partner or a family member of the domestic partner. Now, opponents of these measures will sometimes be heard to argue that paid leave will hurt small businesses or hold back our economic growth, and nothing could be further from the truth. Paid leave is good for business, and employers know that providing supportive programs like paid leave promotes retention, recruitment of employees, and improves productivity. As an example, in California, 87% of the businesses had no increased costs, and 9% reported that their paid leave program generated savings by cutting down on employee turnover and reducing benefit costs. There's also evidence that paid leave saves taxpayer money. The Rutgers Center for Women in Work reported that in a year after their child's birth, women who return to work after paid leave have a 39% lower likelihood of receiving public assistance and a 40% lower likelihood of receiving food stamps when compared to women who return to work without taking leave. So it's really an opportunity for us to lead the country, but also it's an opportunity for our country to get on the right side of this issue and make paid leave a reality for all working families. And I want to thank the Secretary of Labor for his attention to this issue and for his advocacy around the country. And I would now like to turn it over to Secretary Perez. Your schedule-wise? Okay, great. I'll go first to Senator Reid. then Congressman Landry, then the Secretary. Our distinguished senior senator, who has been an extraordinary champion for working families, for our state and for our country. I'm honored that he's with us today. So,
I'm delighted to be here. I'm going to be very brief. I want to thank and commend David for getting this all together, but more importantly, for his tremendous leadership on this issue. He and Jim are doing a fabulous job in the House to try to get this moving. I'm working with Senator Gillibrand in the Senate to try to get it moving on the Senate side. But we're lucky to have Gail Golden who got it done. So you can give us some hints. We have Scott Jensen who has to get it done now because it's not in the book, so you've got to get it done. And I want to thank Dan Gold and the Gold family for their hospitality and their courtesy and their contribution to some of the things. And with that, and once again, thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, welcome here. I know you're going to bring your daughter out to supper tonight, right? So you've got the best rest. She's at Brown. You have the best restaurants here. Be very generous tipping. Order a lot of food. We need the help in our economy. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
and now my senior colleague in the House, Congressman Landry, a great advocate for working families on all these issues.
Thanks. Dave, thanks for organizing this event. Michael, what you're doing on manufacturing and job creation issues in the House, Department, and many other issues. Mr. Secretary, welcome to Rhode Island. I introduced Senator Senators as well. It's open again to congratulations on getting legislation through, which is huge. And we're put in the labor community here as well. And just also, I thank you, Dan, and the team here for hosting us. It's great, it's going to be a great visit. It really has been. Appreciate the work you're doing and keeping our economy moving and creating jobs here. Secretary, welcome back to Rhode Island. We know you've been here many times, and thanks to the good I had the opportunity of being in the audience just a couple nights ago in Washington. It was the hearing, the speaker at the 50th anniversary of the Job Corps program. Extraordinary doing extraordinary representatives for Job Corps centers around the country. And I got to tell you, this guy can be he had a full crowd right in the palm of his hand. He was standing speech and the remarks really some of the remarks from organization he mentioned was that he got through college thanks to some guy named Hell. And while he never met him, his moms provided a nice house when he went through school. And everybody paid their out with a smile because we all obviously big fans of Senator Hell. He's someone that was a certainly mentor to me and many of us in government. I was told that I had 2 internships with him in Washington. He was an extraordinary guy and left an incredible legacy, and everyone is supposed to be part of that legacy. Family leave is another part of that legacy. The idea that everyone should have the opportunity to contribute to the community and that no talent should be left unfulfilled. Paid leave programs allow also more people to take the time necessary to care for their loved ones and without having to worry about a loss of income. And by the way, that may very well make the difference between a family member needing to stay in their own home or being put into institutional care, which is something far more expensive, and the outcomes cannot be as good. So all these things also are investment in our workforce and families and social and medical benefits of paid sick and parental leave are really pretty clear right now. And it's a shame the United States has right now the smallest population of women eligible for paid maternity leave among developed countries. We've got to do better. We've got to do better, and we can. So nobody should be forced to choose between a paycheck and caring for a family member in need. And I certainly look forward to today's discussion, but we've known the progress on all these issues. I know that these are things Mr. Secretary you care passionately about, as does this delegation and folks in the legislature. So thank you, and look forward to continuing positive.
Well, thank you. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you, David, for hosting us, and thank your father indirectly for hosting us. You've built a remarkable business here, and it's clear that the values that you bring in your home, you bring into your work. The values of inclusion, the values of we all succeed when we all succeed, and it's palpable walking around here and seeing that. So, you know, it's an honor to be back. I was at McCoy Field many times back in college. I remember Mark Fidrich pitching against Dave Righetti. Those of you who have a little bit of institutional memory, I was at that game. That was maybe 1981 or 82. And so when I think of Pawtucket, I have nothing but the fondest of memories. And my first observation would be Rhode Island has tremendous assets. And it starts with your political leadership. You have a wonderful governor. I have had the privilege of working with all the members of your delegation. I've spent a ton of time with Senator Reed. He is exactly what we need in the United States Senate. I mean, he never cares about who gets the credit. He cares about, can the work get done? And that's really the ethic that pervades your entire delegation. It's all about moving Rhode Island forward. It's all about, you know, you've got a group of workhorses, not show horses. And workhorses indeed they are. And so I think about the work that Senator Reed did on behalf of the long-term unemployed, working tirelessly across the aisle and very successfully to champion the cause of Rhode Islanders in need. I think about the support and leadership he got in the Senate from Congressman Cicilline and Langevin, and how indispensable that was. I've had a number of meetings with the governor, and she's got game too. I mean, she just impresses me to no end. And she impresses me in the hiring decisions she's made, because way of full disclosure, I know this gentleman pretty well, Scott Jensen, your new labor secretary, because we work together in the state of Maryland, and you have the best among you. And I worked in local, state, and federal government, and you know, when you have tremendous leadership at a state senate level, you get things done. I spoke to a group of intergovernmental folks yesterday, and I said, you know, the president defines success very frequently right now, given the regrettable gridlock in Washington. We define success by how much work we can do with our state and local partners. That's why we travel so often. And you have so many assets here in Rhode Island, in addition to your political leadership. You have remarkable corporate responsibility. I spent the morning talking about upskilling at the White House, and who was prominently participating in that? CBS. And we have CBS here again today. David, it's good to see you again. I had the privilege of spending a morning with the CBS leadership. I had the privilege of, when we were getting ready for the State of the Union, recommending like who ought to sit in the box so that we can highlight corporate responsibility, and we were excited when your boss got to sit in the box, you know, whether it's the issue of apprenticeship, whether it's the issue of a tobacco-free workplace. I was with the mayor of Philadelphia recently, and he said, you know what, we left our, we dismissed our pharmacy benefit manager, and we hired CVS because they did the right thing. When you think long-term, and you put the long-term interests of your company ahead of the quarter-to-quarter earnings vortex, that's how you thrive. And when you think long-term, like Gold has done, you know, you think about making sure you take care of your workers, and you think about making sure that they have, you know, when their kid is sick, you want them focused on their family, and I applaud the forward-leaningness that you have brought to the table, and I applaud so many other businesses in Rhode Island who have done the same, and I applaud Rhode Island for being one of, as you've described, only 3 states in the country that have done this. And we did this in the minimum wage, and we're doing this with paid leave. And the this in that sentence is, we are working our level best with our state and local partners to show that this can be done, and it can be done well. And as a result, I have absolutely no doubt that federal paid leave is a when question, not an if question. And I have no doubt, because you're showing us how to do it successfully, just as California showed us how to do it successfully, and other localities are showing us how to do it successfully. And I have no doubt because people like David, whom I met at the White House recently, this is not just about numbers and public policy, this is about people and life situations. And David, who really sees this from a two-dimensional angle as a PA, he sees the consequences of the absence of paid leave in his workplace, and then very personally as the parent of 3 children, including 1 child who has a disability, and the needs that flow from that. I remember sitting with the president a while back with you, Ann, and I remember on the plane ride back, he's like, she's got game, you know? And what gets us motivated are these stories, because again, it's about real people doing real things. And you know, I really applaud your leadership on this. You've been relentless, Congressman. And some people out there think that this is a partisan issue. And I want to put this in a global frame. I have traveled in this job to Australia, to UK, to Canada, to Germany, to I'm about to go to Switzerland. And everywhere I go, we put together a meeting of the Chamber of Commerce there, so we can meet with business leaders. And every meeting I go to, I ask the following question. If you were king or queen for a day, would you get rid of your paid leave laws that are on the books? And I get usually a 1 or a 2-word answer. And the 1-word answer is no, and the 2-word answer is heck no. And I want to put this in context. The Conservative ruling government in Australia was elected on the platform of expanding federal paid leave, and they were going to fund it by a tax on the 2,500 largest companies in Australia. Germany, you know, a center-right government. Canada, you know, in the year 2000, women in the U.S. and women in Canada, we had identical female labor force participation rates. Now you fast forward to today, we're about 7.5% behind them. If we had kept pace, we'd have 5.5 million more women in the workplace. 5.5 million more women to help address serious gender gaps in the Silicon Valley. 5.5 million more to help address serious gender gaps on Wall Street. 5.5 million more people to contribute to the Social Security Trust Fund. This issue globally is not an R versus D issue or a progressive versus conservative issue. This is an issue of economic self-interest in countries across the world, where labor and business come together in total agreement. And I appreciate the doggedness of labor here in Maryland, in Rhode Island. Another critical asset that makes Rhode Island so strong is your strong labor movement. And so as we talk about this, let's make sure that we don't frame it as, oh, this is just another D versus R issue. Let's understand what the rest of the world is doing, because the rest of the world has gotten this, and the rest of the world understands that if we want to compete globally, you know, we're leaving too many people, usually, but not exclusively women, on the sidelines. And we're forcing too many choices that are indeed unconscionable choices. That's why we are going to lead on leave. Rhode Island is already leading on leave, and I'm here to say thank you for leading on leave. Today's experimentation at a state level is tomorrow's federal law. I have no doubt that paid leave is an example of that, and I have no doubt that this is a when question in terms of what we're going to do federally. And I have no doubt that Senator Reid and Congressman Cicilline and Congressman Langevin and Senator Whitehouse and everyone here in Rhode Island, including your wonderful governor, will be leading the way. And when we sign that final bill, you're going to get a front row seat at the White House. And so thank you for hosting this. And I'm really looking forward to learning, because a lot of the questions I get when I go to other states are, how are they doing it? What's the experience of businesses? Has life gone to heck in a handbasket, as some foes predicted? Did the sun come up? You know, what the parade of horribles. And so I really want to learn the lessons, and that's why you competed for a grant that 20 states competed for and only 3 got. Because you are leading on leave, and we wanted to give you the support to do the necessary review and implementation and learning that enables us to do it even better here and to export it elsewhere. So thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for being such wonderful assets, your team in Washington, your team here in Rhode Island, and equally importantly, labor and business and so many individuals who took the time to write the president, took the time to lead on leave at a state and local level. I am so grateful for your efforts.
Thank you. So why don't we start, if we could, maybe Senator Golden, you could talk a little bit about the bill here, and then Scott, you could talk a little bit about the implementation. We'll start that, and then we'll hear how it's kind of affected people, and as both people have used it as well as what it's meant for your business.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Secretary Perez, for coming
Sounds
in,
a lot quicker.
and for Congressman Cicilline for hosting today, and for all of us being here. I want to point out that not only did Dan host this, but they actually hosted the first press conference the coalition advocating for the passage of temporary caregiver insurance ever did was in this room. And so,
Is that right?
yeah, so when we get that final federal law,
Maybe we'll
we
do the
can
signing
all do it
ceremony.
right here.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
You know, and in that event, Dan really talked about that as a small business owner, he believed that this was the right way to be able to recruit people into the state to work in his business, and it was the right thing to do to support his business and his employees. And that's certainly what I've heard from small businesses throughout our state. And I've had the pleasure of talking with parents like David and others across the state, you know, who just come up to me and tell me their stories, which is really lovely, actually. We've had nearly 4,000 people in the first year use temporary caregiver insurance, and it has made a difference in their day-to-day lives and their ability to meet that bottom line to pay rent or pay the bills, and at the same time be able to know that they can take that time off and do the caregiving that is important to them. One of the things I definitely want to note is that, you know, the leave in Rhode Island is job protected for everybody, which means that you're paying into the system and you can take that leave without worrying about losing your job or being fired or retaliated against. And what we have seen, the numbers show, is that more men take leave in Rhode Island, and I honestly believe it's both because it's paid and it's job protected, so people aren't quite worried about it, even under FMLA, which is job protected but unpaid. So it's really the combination of those two things that have supported the families in Rhode Island.
Director, maybe you want
Sure. Just really quickly, I want to underscore one thing. We are talking a lot about skills gaps these days. And if you talk to a manufacturer, and I'm curious about what your experience is, does it cost about $30,000 in lost productivity and so on to get somebody up to speed? And you know why we would want to waste people's talents because they want to take care of bond with a baby is beyond me. So I think you got to underscore that part of it, because we work so hard on this skills gap all the time. Here in Rhode Island, we have a temporary, thanks to the godfather of temporary disability insurance right here.
Or the protector.
Okay, fair enough, of all of us. We've got a thriving temporary disability insurance system in Rhode Island, and it's Fern here. This is the woman, the godmother of all disability programs. Fern is the administrator, works with colleagues at DLT. This is a well-oiled machine, and we're fortunate in Rhode Island to have, just from an administrative perspective, to have TCI going hand in hand with with Fern's operation. So our administration efforts are pretty straightforward. Just some quick facts. Last year, it's about 6,500 claims were filed. 76% of them were approved. 3,600 roughly were to bond with a child, and 1,200 to for caregiver claims. And we paid out about $8.35 million. So this is a very popular program, and people are making good use of it. So,
How'd you get the word out? Or was it easy, or was it, maybe that's a good question for you.
Yes.
We used various methods. One was we communicated with the employers. We sent out 35,000 letters to employers in our communities. And we also sent out communications to the qualified healthcare providers, to the medical community as well. And we used our websites, and we used the media as well, the newspaper.
And then the coalition partners back there from We Care RI from Women's Fund of Rhode Island, and they worked with coalition partners, including Tina Spears from RIPIN, to let people know through all those different organizations, through SEIU, through all the small employers that were part of the coalition, to get the word out so that their employees would know as well.
And have you been able to disaggregate the type of sector that's making the most use? So is the word getting out in, the service sector, the, various sectors? Because I could see a disparity potentially emerging, but hopefully not.
No, from what we're seeing is a variety, not really
Not
specific.
concentrated in,
No,
okay,
no.
that's good news.
We have looked at that, actually, and it's not a specific area, because we're looking at the wages of the customers that are applying, and so it's a variety.
it's been higher wage earners are making more use of it than we thought, thanks to some research done from Professor.
Not Rhode Island necessarily.
What have you found?
Sorry, so we haven't done the analysis on Rhode Island yet. So in New Jersey and California, high wage workers are using it far more than low wage workers.
That was why I asked the question. because
Right,
I hadn't read the data.
so I'm looking forward to doing the analysis in Rhode Island, but it sounds like it may not be doing that.
So maybe this is a perfect time to talk to some of the folks who have used paid leave, Megan and David. I don't know who wants to start that, but I think,
Yeah.
I can start. Sure. I'm Ann.
after having spoken to the president.
Last year on Mother's Day, I was 7 months pregnant and I went into premature labor. So not expecting to have a baby. I was on bed rest for 4 weeks, so I was out of work at that point. After 4 weeks, he came 2 months early. He was 9 weeks premature. Went directly to the NICU, so he was there for 4 weeks. So at that point, I had been out of work for 8 weeks. We got him home from the NICU after a month. He was doing pretty well, but every day there is another appointment that you need to go to, whether it's doctor, neonatal clinic follow-up, vision, hearing. You've got a lot to do. And I wasn't able to go back to work until about 5 months after I had left. So 5 months with no pay. It was so important for us to have both TDI and TCI. It made such a difference. We had purchased a home just a year before, so then we had a mortgage, on top of our regular bills. And just being a first-time mom and a first-time dad with this premature infant and not having to completely worry about whether my job was going to be there. And thankfully, my boss was very, very understanding, completely flexible with me, which also made a huge difference in me going back to work and wanting to go back to work. Feeling a little more, I wanted to go back to work because she was so supportive, and I wanted to be there and, be a mom, but also use my education that I had worked so hard for. So the two programs were just invaluable for us. I really I think about what would we have done if we didn't have them, and I don't know. I really don't know.
And how would you have felt about your employer if you didn't have it?
Yeah. If they, said sorry.
Oh, you just made the business case.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You really did. Because your loyalty there is much deeper.
And I'm still there, and plan on being there, and very happy to be working. And like you were saying, for women to not be able or not want to go back to work or not feel like they could go back to work and be supported, and being out of the workforce and wanting women to stay working, to stay in the workforce. I have a lot of mom friends. We have very varied stories, and there are some moms who, their employers had less than 25 employees, didn't have to give them FMLA, and they just flat out quit. Said, I can't go back to work after 2 or 3 weeks. And then I have other moms who had paid maternity leave, and what a difference that made for them. So it's just such a wide variety. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, as a country, we do not have paid leave. And until you get to the point where you start thinking about having a family, it's like, wait, what? We don't have that? You just assume, being in the United States, that of course you do. Not so much.
You still hanging with the president?
Still hanging. He hasn't called in a while.
I'm on it.
Note to file.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. First, thank you for having me. I absolutely love the opportunity to be able to share my story and the impact of the town on us. And I've been able to do that a lot working with Gail and with Tina. But so we came into this, and actually just following right up with what you said, is I think that the lack of realization of the need for this is very apparent, and that was our story too. I didn't even realize that this sort of thing was necessary, that it existed, until you absolutely need it, right? And we were thrown into it. Our son, our story is, our second son was an uneventful pregnancy. Everything appeared completely normal, and when he was born, there was something that was apparently abnormal. We weren't quite sure, so we were transferred to the NICU here in Rhode Island. He was born in Connecticut. We live right on the line. And then, anyway, long story short, we found out he had a very rare brain disease called lissencephaly. So, on day 3 of what we thought would be a normal pregnancy and a normal birth, our world literally completely stopped at that point. And everything that we were expecting, everything that we had known, really took a turn. So we knew nothing about what we were going to do. And this is when we met Tina. We've known Tina, God bless, we thank God for Tina, because she was our parent advocate, actually. And the resources, that became very apparent really quickly within Rhode Island. The resources that were available and the resources that were provided to us were life-saving, really. So we quickly learned that we couldn't do this alone. And I was just talking with somebody yesterday. Now a lot of what I do is educating people on paid family leave, and how we had, when we made this diagnosis, how we had really Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C, and Plan D. And near the end, the final plans were, honestly, quit our job. I was going to go work for the military because I had no idea how we would afford this, how we would raise a son that my wife would have to quit. But these resources started opening up, and one, of course, at this time, TCI didn't exist and paid family leave didn't exist, but we quickly got involved through Tina and working with Gail and the absolute need for it. For our son, was chronically in the hospital through his whole life. He would be in and be out, he'd be in and be out, and we played the juggling act of who's going to be with him and who's going to be at home and who's going to be with him. And we literally alternated, and neglecting our own lives several times. And then TCI came around, right, which really takes this question of, well, who's going to be here, who's going to be at work, simply because we were able to, my wife especially was able to focus purely on being with our son, which is, there's nothing more important. I don't think you even realize how important it is. We can all say it, but until you live that life, you really don't even completely understand the impact that it has. So for us, the impacts, we talk about these impacts and how it changes your life, and we were at a point, we've always thought, we will move, we'll leave, we'd love to do that someday. And then Caleb came, our son came, and the impact is incredible. We said there's no way we can leave the state of Rhode Island. Between the resources that we have, between TCI and TDI, and it's not even an option. We're staying here. Job satisfaction, because we had these, resources that were available through work, complete job satisfaction as well. But the impact, the biggest impact for us, clearly, just recently, unfortunately, my son did pass away just in this past December. And when it's most important, of course, to be able to be with your family, it was not an issue at all. TCI was there. We were able to, we knew it existed. We didn't have to question, do we have to be at work? It was never an issue. So, talk about the impact of a family. At the time when you would want to be able to focus on your family most, we were able to be there, and we didn't have to second guess anything. We knew that we were there. We knew our jobs were fine. And we knew finances were fine. And we're not lower class. It's still important to know that your finances are fine. So we were able to have that last month, which was absolutely critical, without any other question in our mind. I don't know how we could have done it without it, honestly. I mean, so I can't thank all of you guys enough. And Gail, what you've done is just amazing, and just the impact that the state has had on us, and TCI itself is just incredible.
Thank you for sharing your story. He shared his story at the White House with the nation, and it was as compelling then as it is now. And unfortunately, in so many other states that don't have this, you got to win the boss lottery, or else you're out of luck.
That's right.
And that's not. You shouldn't have to win the boss lottery to be able to be with your family when you need it.
Yep.
It's your turn.
Hi, my name's Megan. I'm happy to share my experience with you. I actually got to take the TCI to care for my mom. She ended up having a terrible fall when she was coming to pick me up from my workplace. She ended up breaking 3 bones in her shoulders, 3 bones in her ankle. She needed surgery. She was 69 years old. They wanted to send her to a nursing home. I'm already a CNA. I also passed medication at my job. So I knew I could care for her. Because of TCI, I took the 4 weeks. My mother now is home, and I didn't even think she could walk again. She's home, she's working, she's driving, and I got to stay home and get paid for it and take care of her versus her going to a nursing home, which would have cost a lot more money, and odds are she would have probably still been there. But successfully, she's home, she's happy, and she can actually walk through this door today when they didn't even think she could probably walk again. So, and she was on insulin, now she's home with no insulin, so like, for me, it was very helpful for my mom to just see her home, and I didn't even think she would ever be able to work again. She couldn't eat, she couldn't go to the bathroom, so I basically cared for her 24/7, and to see my mom home, happy, she didn't lose her home, she didn't lose her job, she could still drive, she regained all her independence back, because she was afraid if they sent her to the nursing home, she'd lose it. So by me staying home, she's working. For me, it saved the state a lot of money not going to a nursing home. And she's back home, she's working, and I'm back at my job. I had no problems. My employers were happy with it. It didn't affect my job. I've been there 16 years, I'm still there, so.
And probably if you didn't have that and you left for 4 weeks, you probably
I would have, yeah.
would have lost it.
It would have been, and my mom would have lost everything, so kind of helps both sides when you kind of look at the really big picture of how it affects everyone.
George and Patrick, maybe, and then I know we're going to hear from Daniel, I think, yeah, but.
Thank you for coming here and joining with us. It's an honor to have you here, and I have a very simple way to get this passed nationally. Very clear. We elect the kind of delegation that we have in Rhode Island across the United States. I've said this before, and I sincerely mean it. If you look at the leadership, the commitment, the quality of our congressmen and our senators, we have, we went out on a limb, the best delegation for working families in the United States of America. And we thank them all the time for what they've done for us and for all working families. The labor movement was actually one of the founders, not the godfather, he's dating years, of the TDI program. And it just might be important because I don't think people really understand where it came from. In Rhode Island, when the unemployment insurance system was created, the workers used to pay into the unemployment insurance system. After World War II, there was a huge surplus as a result of the booming economy, people coming back to work and everything. And what happened is, they looked at the thing and said, look, the workers are paying into it now. Let's defer the employee contribution and create a temporary disability insurance program to take care of situations where people get injured or hurt off the job, not on the job. And so as a result, this program was created in the early 50s and has been one of the few states that did that. I think 5 or 6 at one point. A few states have gone back and forth. So there is a rich tradition of this being a critical and very important social insurance program. Because that's what it is. We have to look at it in the context of a social insurance program that benefits the individuals but also benefits the economy. And I think that kudos to Senator Golden a couple of years ago when this idea first came. Not everybody embraced it right away. And it was seen as extremely controversial, another, quote, giveaway program that's going to undermine the economy and people are going to take advantage of it. And nothing could be further from the truth. And I think the integration now of the TDI program with the TCI program, it makes us really a model for the country. Right now, there are a few misguided and short-sighted people in our community, believe it or not everybody is as enlightened as the group that might be here, who want to dismantle the whole thing. But I think we have to see it for where it's coming from. It's coming from an ideological perspective. They don't like Social Security, they don't like Medicare, they don't like Medicaid, and now they don't like TDI and the TCI program.
How do they feel about the Affordable Care Act?
What's that?
How do they feel about the Affordable Care Act?
I think that they would probably
Put it on
add
that
that to their list. But I think we really have something that is terrific in the state of Rhode Island. We should be proud of it. And in fact, after hearing the discussion today, I think that we should go even further and expand it, because this is the way that we stay on the offensive, and certainly the individuals that have spoken here today, and I think we can now see it as something that's beneficial to the worker, beneficial to the business, and beneficial to their family members. So it's a home run for everybody, and we should continue to fight for it and expand it. And again, thank you for your leadership on this issue.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Yes, thank you for hosting this, and thanks to all the delegation, and again, thanks to Senator Golden for inviting us to be part of that coalition. It was a great opportunity to work with the community. Mr. Secretary, I did win the Boston Lottery because I work for the members of 1199, and they're the best people to work for. We have the people in the NICU who took care of Ann's child, and we have people in nursing homes all throughout the whole spectrum. But
Home health worker.
not yet.
Trying to help.
But one key piece of that I just wanted to share is that often, and this happens to me, and I'm not a clinical person, who gets called or who gets reached out to when one of these crises happens in the family, it's usually the healthcare worker, the CNA, the nurse. Well, you can navigate this. You know how to deal with this. You know. My family calls me up from my parents. I'm not a nurse. I'm just a labor organizer, and it really creates a lot of tension because people have their job to do, but they obviously have, as you heard from Megan, they have a skill set that allows them to take care of their family. They want to do it, and they do it, out of love and compassion. But this program, makes it to not be the huge financial sacrifice that it was, because people are expected to hold down a job and take care of a sick parent or a sick child. Principally falls on the mom or the sister or the sister-in-law, whoever it is. And that's something that we need to recognize. And I think I would just underscore what Megan touched on as part of other responsibilities that I have. I'm sitting on the Medicaid Commission trying to figure out ways to build a better long-term care system, and as well as attack the cost of it and figure out a way to make it so that it's sustainable and so that the workers who provide care actually make a living without having to have 3 jobs. But these type of things that Megan highlighted have been clearly identified as, if we can support families who are able and willing to take care of their family member, that saves significant amount of money to the the whole Medicaid system. And it's preferable. It's what people want, but not everybody has, Megan in the pipeline to step in and do that work. So where we can support families that want to do that, we absolutely should do that. And I just want to give, a shout out to the president for putting you in this job, because I think you're the right person at the right time.
Thank you. Everyone has referenced you and all your incredible work in this area.
So I work for the Rhode Island Parent Information Network. We're a nonprofit organization. We work with families with children with special health care needs. I could probably wear 3 hats here today in this conversation, one being the parent of a child with special health care needs, and having a very similar circumstance to David. but I had to make that difficult choice, and I did leave my career. I had to stay home with him and care for him. So I didn't re-enter the workforce until I then came to Rhode Island Parent Information Network, working as a patient advocate, having worked through the system, and stayed with them to this day, and that was 2005, 2006, because they are flexible, they understand my circumstance, and they provide the resources that I need to keep my family well. And the third would be working in an administrative capacity for the organization now, where we have 70% of the individuals that work for our agency are parents of children or themselves with special health care needs. So this is a real life situation that we experience as a business on a day-to-day basis. People that go out on medical leave, people that experience challenges with their children. So this isn't something that we don't see. We see it pretty regularly, and we manage it. We do great work in the community. And when Gail introduced this bill, it was a no-brainer for us. We were like, oh my God, all the families this will help. So we jumped aboard, and we're proud of the work that Gail's done and the coalition that led this charge, and we'll continue to work hard to press issues like this for families.
So Dan, I think the biggest challenge we face, I mean, it seems obvious to everyone at this table, the underlying benefits to families and to the community and to the economy and to small and to businesses, but I think the business case is the one that we confront the most. And how do we, maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience, and how do we talk to business folks and sort of help them understand that it's not an act of charity, that it's good business sense, it produces more productive workers, a more dedicated workforce that you're more likely to retain and not have to, and all those things that you know.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about your experience and how we might effectively grow the coalition of business leaders that support this.
I mean, well, first, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and we're happy to host this event. We're happy to host, we were happy to host the We Care Rhode Island press conference and whatnot. As Rhode Islanders in general, we're proud because we're small. Maybe, I don't know. We're a small state. We're a small company. It's nice to be able to make a little bit of a difference. When you can. To me, besides there's business, and then there's also community and quality of life. And I believe that the business community is critical in creating a quality of life for all the workers in the state. A good quality of life means a happy community, means a better economy, means a lot of different things. So people being able to balance that work and outside of work life, whether it's for pleasure or whether it's because of an unfortunate situation or to enjoy the birth of a child, that's all that balance that creates, in my opinion, a very important quality of life. So that was the main reason that I supported it. But also, from a business perspective, being able to retain employees is huge, especially for a small company. I mean, maybe CBS certainly has a lot more turnover, but when you spend time and money training people and finding good employees, losing them for one reason or another and having to retrain or find new people that you just it's a risk each and every time. Retaining good employees is critical for a company like ours. And Rhode Island, I think, is built on small businesses for the most part. There are a few big companies here, but generally speaking, it's small businesses. So as a small business, if we can make our employees happier and give them these types of benefits, it's huge. It's huge for us. It's huge for our state. And I think again, being small, proud Rhode Islanders, it's nice to be able to lead on something like this and be one of the few states that has really embraced it. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but I think it's a combination of business and quality of life to me is really important. Rhode Island has a great quality of life, generally speaking, but in the business community, it's difficult to attract people here. And I think this is one of those things that will help keep people here.
Great. Yes.
So, Congressman, you asked how can you get the word out to businesses? I think, like you said, it's just having businesses tell their story. We are a large employer. We had, if this didn't matter, if TCI didn't matter, people wouldn't use it. We had 300 colleagues who used it over the past year, and we have actually seen a 27% increase in the utilization of the baby bond benefit and a 40% increase in the utilization of the family care benefit. So, we only have a year's worth of data, but we have no reason to believe that trend is going to go any other direction than up. So I think one of the best ways to reach the business community is to have us, tell the story. And again, from our perspective, if people didn't like it, if it didn't offer any value, they wouldn't use it. And we've seen about 300 of our own employees use it over the past year.
I've been learning in this job, I never travel anywhere without someone from CBS with me.
Now we know why.
We can talk about skills, we can talk about TDI, we can talk about
Tobacco
health.
free.
No,
That's great. Well, thank you. I mean, I think the voices of the business community in this are incredibly important, so thank you. And I know we have like 1 minute left, so I'll give it to our secretary, but I want to just thank everyone who's been part of this discussion, thank our senator, thank my colleague Jim, but just want to give the secretary just a wrap up.
This is a compelling conversation, and we talk about numbers, we talk about the business case, but what it comes down to is, the time you spend with your family is priceless, and you're providing that, and that reflects who we are as a country. And it's just remarkably unconscionable to me that as a nation we haven't figured this out. And that's why when I hear these stories, I have, I'm inspired, I'm profoundly saddened in some respects, and I'm profoundly motivated. And I'm confident. People might ask me sometimes, why do you have such confidence that this is a when question, not an if question? You've answered that because you've made a compelling business case. You've told compelling personal stories, and this is in our enlightened self-interest as a nation. We need to kick Papua New Guinea's butt here, okay? Get forward and move ahead. I mean, we lead as a nation on so many things around this world, and that's why we're so proud to be Americans. Regrettably, this is not an issue as a nation that we lead on, but this is an issue that this state leads on. So they don't call you the biggest little state in the union for nothing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.